Today, I'm reviewing Toutatis, the new for 2023 Intamin Swing Launch coaster at Parc Astreix in France. And this was one of the best coasters that I got to ride in 2023. This coaster is a full package, has wild airtime, amazing launches, and is overall a fantastic ride, and I'll share why it's so great in this review. Parc Astreix was by far one of the parks I was most excited to visit in Europe. I was really excited for Tornado Zeus, Osiris, Gudrix, and most of all, Toutatis. This new coaster just looked so interesting to me, and it really just felt like it was going to be a better version of Pantheon, and the reviews I had heard about it were phenomenal, so I was so excited to ride it. I got to Paris, and this was my second day in France when I went to Parc Astreix. The first day was Parc St. Paul. I was very excited to get on this coaster. It was the first ride I ran to. I got the Full-O-Matics Express, and I used my one-time skip for Toutatis first, so I could pick which row I wanted. I ended up getting the front row for my first time, and I was really impressed with this coaster. And I'm going to start by talking through the queue experience. Most of the time I was in the single rider queue, but the actual station is really cool looking with all the rocks and the lighting and the way it kind of just it does this web of lights that kind of goes all throughout the station as you the train dispatches, and I think that's a really cool theming touch. The trains are very comfortable. They're the typical new Intamin multi-launch trains. Same lap bars as Velocicoaster, Pantheon. It doesn't have the elevated seating like you have on Velocicoaster, Taron, Batman, Gotham City Escape. But it has similar trains to Conda and Red Force, how your feet will be on the floor. But you feel very open, so they're fantastic trains, and they look really great too. They have a really nice wicker kind of Viking face on the front of them, and it's great looking. Really well done trains. The ride starts with a dip out of the station, and you immediately hit the first launch, and then you head up into the first inversion. You kind of do a little bit of an S-bend up into the inversion, and it's I would describe it as a combination of an overbank and a stall, because it doesn't feel as sustained as a full stall, but it completely hangs you almost upside down, and you really feel your body just fall into the lap bar at this moment. It's a fantastic hang time moment. You then curve back down and you hit some smaller hills that are kind of just the lead up into the swing launch. There's not too much force here or anything, but you curve into the swing launch and then you hit the second boost. And this is really where the ride I would say it really kicks off and kind of starts kicking things into full gear. You coast over an airtime hill, which is broken up by two LSM launches, and you get really nice floater airtime over the first pass. Then you head up into the top hat, but you don't fully make it up. So you go up, and then you fall back down backwards. And then you head over the airtime hill again. This time, the airtime hill is a lot more extreme. It turns from a floater airtime on the first pass to ejector airtime on the second pass. And taking it backwards is just absolutely intense and jarring, and you really can't see this element coming, so it really adds to the experience. And then you fly over another little hump backwards, which really gives a nice pop of airtime and jolts you up forward. And you fly up into the spike, and you get crazy weightlessness all the way up, and you're just staring at the ground. It's a fantastic element. It's cool if you kind of look up and out, because you really just see the scale of the coaster, and you can get a really nice view of the area. It's a fantastic element, and you get that sustained weightlessness the whole time, even as you're plummeting back down to the ground, which is just great. It lasts at least 4 seconds. It's so awesome. Next, you make the third pass over the swing launch. You get insane airtime this time. It's still ejector. You're just taking it forward, so you see it coming this time. So I would say the second pass is probably the best, because you get the ejector and you're going backwards. So then you fly over the top hat, which is followed by a 101-degree drop. And I'm going to be honest, while this is a good drop, I don't think it's one of the best parts of the ride because it really trims you over it. And I didn't even really realize when I rode this that this was a 100-degree drop. It doesn't feel that steep, in my opinion. But still, you get some airtime in the front as you crest it, but I feel like it kind of gets killed by the trim in the back on the drop. But still, this coaster does so many other things well that even though the drop maybe isn't the best, it's still better than a lot of drops, and it still manages to be fun. So, and there's so many other good things to love about this ride that it doesn't bother me too much. Next, you enter this section where the track is really twisty, and you pop up into a little curve, and you twist upwards into the zero-G stall, which is a fantastic inversion, and it's one of the best parts of the ride. You get crazy hang time this entire stall, and it switches into airtime as it twists back down to the ground. This lasts at least 4 seconds, and it's a great element. At this point, you're really in the woods too, because the whole section of the top hat takes place in an area that's surrounded by trees, and it really just adds to the sense of speed this coaster already has. You curve really low to the ground over a little airtime hop, and you get a nice pop of ejector there. And you maintain some nice laterals as you curve around. And then you go up into a big ejector hill, and this is a nice sustained moment. It's a big hill, and it's a lot different than the other airtime hills on the ride. It's definitely one of my favorite moments, and it offers about 3 seconds of sustained ejector airtime. Really happy Intamin put some sustained hills on this ride, because I think that's what Intamin does best, honestly. At this point, you then fly over this little S hill, which really offers a nice pop of airtime and laterals. I think it definitely is better for laterals than airtime, but still, it's just a great element, and you really get whipped through this. Next, you go up into a wave turn, which is a good element, but I'd say it's one of the weaker ones on the ride. You don't really get like too much airtime going through this, just this nice like floaty sensation, and you curve back down to the ground, which has some nice lats on the drop as you transition into the next element, which is actually might be my favorite part of the ride, the final inversion. It does this really low barrel roll to the ground, and you get really nice laterals and a little pinch of hang time as you fly through this element. It's really whippy and intense. I love this inversion, and I think it's definitely the best inversion on Toutatis. Really cool moment, and it's very disorienting just how fast it whips you through that. It reminds me a lot of the second inversion that's on Airy Force 1 at Fun Spot Atlanta, like the second low to the ground barrel roll that it does in like the turnaround section before you hit like the insane bunny hills. It reminds me of that inversion, but I think this one is executed a bit better because you really feel that like twist as you whip through it, which is fantastic. At this point, you hit one more banked curve, which really just is there to turn the train around. You know, there's some nice whip through it, but not too much force there. You know, it's just mainly to turn the train around. And you hit 2 little bunny hills heading into the brake run, and these are actually a really nice touch. I think they added them in just the right place. You know, this ride really does a little bit of everything, so having those tiny little ejector moments right at the end is just a nice touch, and I think that was a really good place on the ride for them to put those. So yeah, then you fly into the brake run, which ends your ride, and this is a long ride. It does so much of everything. The swing launch, I think, really extends the ride time, but like, it's not like one of those rides where the actual layout is short. Like, it has a really long layout on top of having the swing launch, which I think just makes it feel like such an epic and long experience, and I think it really sets it above some other launch coasters like Pantheon or something like Maverick, or I even think this is better than Velocicoaster, to be honest. The amount of airtime on this coaster is just fantastic. So, to answer the question, is this the best launch coaster in Europe? It's close. I do prefer Batman Gotham City Escape. However, I would take this over Taron, and I would also take this over some launch coasters in the United States, like Velocicoaster and Maverick. Really, the only one I would put above it is Batman Gotham City Escape. So, I would say it's definitely the best coaster in France, and definitely a top 3 in Europe. So, absolutely, it's a fantastic ride, and I would 100% recommend putting this park on your bucket list. And it's definitely an essential for your first trip to Europe because there's just so many good coasters here. I mean, on top of Toutatis, you know, you have Osiris, which is a fantastic B&M invert. I think it's definitely the best B&M invert in Europe. And then Tornado Zeus 2, which is also my favorite wooden coaster in Europe. So would highly recommend both of those. And just the park as a whole is just fantastic, and Toutatis just really makes it just this amazing coaster park that every enthusiast should try to get to. So those are my thoughts on Toutatis, and I would 100% recommend this ride. I would give it a 10 out of 10. I think it's definitely a top 5 steel coaster, and it's definitely in my top 10 overall, and I would just highly recommend this ride to everyone, and definitely check it out, and I hope you enjoyed this review, and stay tuned for more reviews. I plan to do a lot more from coasters in Europe and the United States. I have some from Mexico I want to review, and Canada as well, and I have a lot more trips coming up in the future, so yeah, expect a lot of more reviews from this channel, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe and share the video. It means a lot to me. And yeah, thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Goodbye.